Hello, and welcome back to A Cast for Crows, the Game of Thrones inspired podcast here on deadscreen.net. This week we're going to discuss Season 8, Episode 2, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I am your host, Albert Joseph, a court jester of the Seven Kingdoms, but luckily with me are Alexa.
Hey.
And Drew.
Yes, hello. That's me.
Did I say and Drew or Andrew?
Drew.
Drew. And Drew. Okay. Very important. Important stuff here. So, first I want to note that in these first two episodes of Season 8, we have smiled probably more than at any other time in the series. We've had some genuinely heartwarming moments, and I think we're going to pay for it with a lot of death.
It's making me hella uncomfortable.
But before we get to what could come next week, gosh, there's so many moments. Alexa, where would you like to start with this episode?
I think we should start with the start.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, Jaime's back. Sorry, I'm really tired. So Jaime's back with, well, not back, he's in the north. He's like reuniting with a bunch of people. And I am just getting kind of really annoyed of Daenerys. Like, I understand her, like, hesitancy, but I think it's, like, her storyline is just proving more and more that, like, the only reason she wants to be queen is because that's what she's been, like, groomed for.
Hasn't she kind of been snooty, though, for a while now?
No, she has. I think it's just, like, this episode, like, just kind of keeps proving it further and further, where it's just, like, you literally, like, take away, like, her Targaryen bloodline, and, like, why do you want to be queen? You don't even know anyone. It's just, like, I don't know, it just, like, she just, I don't know, like, the whole thing with Jaime, like, I understand why she was a little hesitant to trust him, just because, he promised, along with Cersei, that they'd be sending an army, and they didn't. But, like, her other reasons for not trusting him is because, like, he's a Kingslayer, and it's like, you didn't even know your dad. Literally everyone knows your dad sucked. Like, and it's just like she just keeps saying the same things over and over again, and it's like just further proving that she has like no claim to the throne other than her name. And it's just getting really annoying.
So if we get to the end of this thing and she is still alive, like say she's still alive and Jon's dead, would you, like obviously she would have the biggest claim to the throne, but would you personally want her in charge of the Seven Kingdoms?
I don't know, like I feel like for a while I've wanted her in charge, but it's like really she doesn't know the Seven Kingdoms at all. Like, I mean, I'm jumping ahead, but kind of like the whole thing with Sansa, like I don't necessarily think that she's going to be listening to her subjects. She's just going to it's just, to me, it's like it's all she's ever known, and that's like literally her only purpose in life, and I don't think she necessarily deserves it. But I also would prefer her to Cersei, I think, so.
You think?
I guess. I don't know. I feel like she's gonna end up being like a mad queen, too, so I don't know.
I feel like she's gotten a little, a little heated more recently in the last, couple seasons. Like, I mean, it's been a while since I've watched some of the older seasons, but I feel like she was much more, kind of relaxed and trying to figure out, what the best thing to do is kind of based on the situation, whether she understood it or not. And now she's kind of she's just much more snooty.
Entitled child.
It's more about her than it used to be. In Meereen, it was about doing what was best for everyone.
Right.
Girl, you were the breaker of chains. You don't really seem like that anymore.
Right. I don't know, I think that's something that Game of Thrones does really well, is they'll slowly change your opinion of characters, and typically that's not something easy to do over time. Like, it's usually one major action, but it's like she has slow, bit by bit over the last couple of seasons kind of gotten a little more full of herself and a little more I guess arrogant, for lack of a better word.
But I think it's a good word. I think she is just being arrogant and entitled. She's like, I deserve the throne.
I guess it's just gone like that the bigger the dragons got.
Yeah, I guess she has a little bit more of a power high now that she has some big old dragons.
Right.
And it's the exact opposite of the person who was kneeling right in front of her, or standing
Yeah.
Jamie, you know,
It's just I love
obviously
seeing him
we know,
progress.
yeah, we know what he was like at the start, but then, you know, our opinion of him as viewers changed gradually season by season.
I
And now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm sitting there thinking, surely you can't kill this guy. Please don't execute him.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Like,
I
let
mean,
him-
he's
let him
slowly
live.
become one of my favorite characters, and I like if you had told season 1 viewing Alexa that, she'd be like, "Yeah, okay."
I still stand by, and I've said this before on the podcast, that Jamie's story arc has been one of the most well written and interesting story arcs in, like, you know, history. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
just going from this character that you, like, truly despised to a character you're, you know, that's down on his luck that you're rooting for now. Like, that's something I think is extremely difficult to do, and I think there's only a handful of instances in, you know, in storytelling that you've been able to follow a person.
I think it's all really interesting too. I mean, like this is again, I like kind of just skipping ahead to Robo Bran, but like when he didn't reveal him to everyone, he's like, "I'm like not the man that I like, I used to be. Like I'm like sorry for everything." And he's like, "Yeah, but you wouldn't be who you are if you hadn't done that to me."
Right.
And like really, if like he like I just couldn't imagine his character if he hadn't been through everything he did, or he had been through throwing Bran off the tower.
Right.
And I think that's actually the reason why Jamie says I think he said it to Bran, that if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't change anything.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about it on the surface, you think, well, God, what a jerk. He would still push the kid out the window. But when you think about it, if he hadn't done that, it wouldn't have led him to all the experiences he's had and this change in personality that we all have come to enjoy so much. And I think when you look below the surface, that's what he means, is I wouldn't change this journey for the world because it's changed me
Yeah.
in many profound ways. And I agree with Andy, it's one of the best written character stories where
Yeah,
it
the character
changes your
arcs.
opinion, and it's absolutely brilliant in the books. If you guys ever get to read them, trust me, it might be even better in the books. But yeah, it's a wonderful journey he's had, and it was fascinating to see him finally come face to face with, obviously, the Mad King's daughter and Bran.
I just love Bran being like, "The things we do for love." I was like, yes, throw that dig that like no one else
Yeah, I was
understands.
gonna say the three-eyed raven is super sarcastic.
Yeah, he is salty.
So, I felt like a lot of this episode was like kind of concluding a lot of storylines, because you're talking about Jamie, and I think Jamie getting in front of Bran was a big deal on kind of like,
Yeah, it's
Closing
definitely
his
like coming
arc.
full circle.
and same thing with him and Brienne kind of going through their storyline in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Between both of them, like their storylines are relatively wrapped up. Like Brienne's 100% wrapped up, and I know
Yeah.
we'll discuss later what we think is gonna happen. But like hers is wrapped up, and Jamie, the only thing that's kind of still left dangling is like him and Cersei. Other than that, like his storyline is pretty much wrapped up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of storylines are kind of just starting to wrap up. I kind of felt that way, like, I feel like this whole, like, I mean, and again, this is, like, for the next episode kind of thing, but, like Theon, like, coming back and, you know, trying to protect the Starks after everything he's done, too. That's kind of, like, wrapping things up, too.
Yeah, I'd agree that his is definitely wrapped up as well.
Yeah, I mean, we can get to our predictions for next episode. I'm, like, convinced, like, half of the people in Winterfell are gonna die, so...
I mean, like, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
so many of these characters have had great arcs that, like, if they're gonna die defending Winterfell from the White Walkers, like, is there a better way for them to go?
No, yeah,
So, like,
definitely.
you're gonna lose Brienne almost 100%, and if you
Yeah.
don't lose Brienne, you're gonna lose Jamie. You're gonna lose one of those two.
I could see both. But I mean, let's get to that near the end. I don't want to skip ahead to
Yeah,
the next episode.
we'll spend plenty of quality time on deaths.
Yeah.
So,
But
the,
I want to talk to you. I want to talk about. Speaking of potentially a character story wrapping up, do you think Arya falls under that category after what happened?
um,
And how did you feel about that particular happening?
I
I'm
mean,
very curious because I
I
have strong opinions on this.
I know I've seen people being like, oh my god, Arya, like little baby, but like I was reading online, there's like a bunch of articles that were like, how old is Arya supposed to be? And like according to these articles, she's supposed to be 18, so it's all good. um, I mean, I think it was like 100% fan service after like just their arc and everyone wanting them to get together, but like obviously when she was like a little 12-year-old, that's weird. So I think it's just kind of like a, hey, like, I'm maybe gonna die tomorrow, and like maybe you're gonna die tomorrow, and I just kind of want to see what this is about. So like, it didn't bother me, but it
It
definitely felt like fan service.
Yeah, I agree with you. It didn't bother me a ton either. I think ever since Arya like started working her way back to Winterfell, some of her like faceless man-ness has kind of been like dripping off her a bit. Like she's becoming more Stark-ish, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And like she'll still default back to her normal self, normal self being like the woman she sort of grew into, but like every so often her like younger, like more human self is kind of coming out, and I think that was just another like exploration into that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, how she stayed within the faceless man thing, her character would just be like too ruthless. Like I think
Right.
Arya has a lot of heart, and
Right.
you can't just take that away from her.
I think it was definitely fan service though.
Yeah.
Absolutely fan service. I felt like it was a scene that was designed to like confirm once and for all, like the little girl you knew is all grown up now.
Yeah.
Like there ain't no going back.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I noticed the camera angles were like very careful not to show like much
Yeah.
of the like they didn't show any private areas at all, and I thought that was an interesting choice because I'm not sure if it was meant for just viewers who are thinking, well, she's a really young girl, or she's a really young actress, or questioning the age difference, but I thought it was a good choice to do that, but I just couldn't shake the feeling the entire time that it was like, this is just pure fan service. Like,
Right.
we see this so many times in
So-
so many other genres of television.
Right.
And it's like, like I guess I get it, but I don't know. Speaking of what we were just talking about with arcs wrapping up, I felt like this was it felt like an ending of Arya's story arc to me too. Like it got me thinking, like, what else is there really for her to do with her life except fight a little bit more?
Right. My whole thing with her is I wanted to figure out who was still on her list that she's willing to kill, because the Hound was on her list, but she took the Hound off, didn't
Mm-hmm.
The Mountain, Cersei.
Cersei, Ellen Payne. I think that's it.
she? So
Barracks and Darian, but I'm sure she's
Is
taking him
Ellen Payne
off.
still alive?
I think so.
I don't even know.
I
who
don't
that
know. He's the dude who beheaded Ned.
Yeah.
I just think we haven't really paid any attention to him, and that
So-
probably hasn't been on in a while.
is. Her storyline wrapping up to me would be like finishing off her list in one capacity or another. And that's why I think everybody, and I'm in the same boat. Everybody kind of wants Jaime to be the person to take down Cersei because it would be the most interesting. But I also would be totally fine, and I might have said this last episode, with Arya being the one to take down Cersei as well, because it's her like crossing off the big name on her list. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I agree that I think her storyline is like come to a nice conclusion, aside from the fact that for like 3 seasons she was muttering the list, and now we've kind of just forgotten about it.
Do we think that she's forgotten about it?
I
Do you
hope
think she's just
not.
kind of moved on, or?
I mean, like, I think she'd love to kill Cersei. I don't really think she cares about anyone else at this
Right.
point.
I love that we talk about a teenage girl like this.
Right. I don't think she's moved on. I just don't think it's her driving force anymore. And I think that happened when she went through her whole training and went blind and all that stuff. Like, I don't think she muttered her list much after that.
Yeah, I agree.
Something I noticed a lot about this episode, and if you've ever seen the Lord of the Rings movies, you'll probably have caught on. It really mimicked the scene, right, like the Helm's Deep preparation scene, like there were a lot of like little kind of nods towards that, especially the one where there was the little girl with the soup bowl and she was like trying to fight and Davos was talking to her. There's a similar scene in Lord of the Rings where Aragorn's talking to a little, a young kid who has a sword and stuff, and it's like in a very similar setting with all the people, all the like farmers and stuff getting armored and ready to fight, and it's sort of having this like hopeless vibe to it. And I felt like there were a lot of similarities there, especially at the end. I'm jumping ahead a bit, but with Podrick singing the song is very reminiscent of Pippin singing a song in the middle of Return of the King.
I hadn't made that connection when watching the episode, but then when we talked about it earlier, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it like immediately, right when he started singing it, like I was like, this is kind of like a nod to that. And if you go back and rewatch the Pippin scene, it 100% is. Like it's it's not a ripoff of it by any means, but it's definitely taking inspiration from that. The way this song is paced is very kind of similar as well.
I think we can all agree that there's a lot of Lord of the Rings influence in the show. I mean, like George R.R. Martin only has the RR because of Tolkien.
Right. Yeah, so, I'm not bashing it at all. It was just like being such a fan of those movies and those books, watching that, it was like I felt like I'd been there before in a good way. Just from like all the background scenes and people getting set up and stuff. It was very interesting. There was also a scene very similar. There's that Witcher 3 video game that came out a couple years ago that was like, very popular in kind of this high fantasy areas. And there's a scene in that game that's really similar to the scene with Tormund and Brienne and Jaime and all of them like drinking around the fire. It was just, the same thing where there was a group of people who sort of came together. They were all sitting around a big fire in a castle, drinking, telling stories right before this, seemingly impossible battle came upon them.
I think that's a very just like common trope in these kind of scenarios. Like on like a completely different like theater nerd side, like the scene just kind of reminds me of in Les Mis, they sing the song called Drink With Me, where they're all like drinking right before they're probably gonna die. Like I think it's just like a very common trope.
Right.
Where, everyone's like, well, we're probably all going to be dead tomorrow, so let's enjoy what we have for now.
Right. I mean, even specifically, like, they were sitting around in front of a fire in an empty castle room, so even visually there was a lot of similarities. But, I don't know, I really liked this episode as a whole, and I think if this episode was in a different season, I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself. I really like this episode. I think this is one of the better episodes we've had. Not because it was happy, but because you got to see people doing things that weren't necessarily like monumental pushing the story forward moments. You know what I mean?
This episode just had a lot of heart,
Right, but like you got to see them in more not relaxed, but like more... But
it was kind of relaxed, they're all like, it's the calm before the storm.
Right.
Like
you just got to see them in more unimportant scenarios because like normally it cuts to King's Landing and it's Cersei and somebody having a conversation that's supposed to be super important and you have to listen to everything, but this time you got to cut to, Arya and the Hound sitting there talking about nothing sort of thing.
And she's like, I'm gonna go... Like, if it's my last day on Earth...
I'm not going to waste my last night with you two miserable old shits.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Right.
It was just... there were a lot of funny moments. It had all emotional roller coasters. I mean, if we're skipping ahead to that, I mean, the drinking scene, like, the whole Brienne scene where they're knighting her was just so cute. I straight up, legit, low-key almost cried. But
I think part of what...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, part of what made it so special for me is that that entire scene brought together so many characters who had never really been in the same room before, but that we've all been able to watch them season after season, and now they're all coming together for a common purpose and taking a moment to relax together and share stories, and the fact that they all respect one another despite whatever past mistakes they've made. They all stood there applauding Brienne, whereas in the past, it's like she said, women can't be knights.
Yeah, and I mean,
but then you have
just
all
the
those
thought
men
of it
standing
would
there
have been a
applauding
total joke.
Yeah.
It's half of those men.
Right, exactly. If that had tried to go on in like season 1, the only person
Yeah,
who would have been okay with it is, potentially Tormund, I guess, because I don't know how.
And, I mean, I could see Tyrion being okay with it,
Right.
but yeah, I think it would have been something where it's like, okay, like man, woman.
Right. I don't know. It was definitely a very positive, happy scene, and in Game of Thrones that doesn't bode well for whoever's
Yeah,
on the
I
other
mean,
end of it.
I think it was one of those things, and I think this is exactly what we were saying. Is I think this is wrapping up Brienne's storyline completely. It's all she's ever wanted.
Right. And so, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not feeling too comfortable about many of those people in that scene surviving.
No,
So,
I think in that scene, in that room, potentially only like one or two of them make it out.
yeah,
Out of next episode.
I mean, we can go about it. I feel like maybe Tyrion survives, just 'cause I feel like he's not done yet.
Yeah, his storyline out of everybody in that room is definitely the most like his arc is definitely the most flustered out of any of the
Yeah.
remaining people. And the only reason I think Jaime survives is because I do think he's going to be the one to take down Cersei. But
Yeah,
if he doesn't make it,
I don't know.
he's going
I
to
think
die like
I
protecting
think he's
Brienne.
gonna
in some way.
sacrifice himself for her. I think Brienne is 100% dead.
Right.
I think either Tormund or Jaime or both are gonna sacrifice themselves for her.
Right.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think that would. I mean, like I do think that Jaime's gonna kill Cersei, and I think that'd be sweet. But I think also it would be like the full redemption arc is if he sacrifices himself for her.
No, I agree 100%. It's one of the rare instances in this show where I don't really think there's a wrong move he can make. Like the writers
Yeah.
can make at this point, because if he goes down, saving Brienne or attempting to save her, great. His storyline is one of the best we've ever seen. But at the same time, if he survives and he goes on to be the Queen Slayer sort of, person, that's also a super interesting arc. So like, regardless of what happens with him over the next couple episodes, I think his storyline is like I don't think they could do anything majorly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to give a shout out to Tormund for that scene where their Night's Watch brother Ed comes back, and Sam runs over and gives him a hug, and then John looks over and sees him,
And he just
and they
like
play
tackles
they
him
play
to the ground.
Yeah, Tormund comes into the camera out of nowhere and just tackles him. I'm like, that's the most Tormund thing ever.
Tormund was definitely a good portion of the comic relief in this episode.
I
Like,
think-
with him like slurping down the ale and the whole like giant thing.
Right. I can't remember, because I feel like he's been very much a comic relief character over the last couple seasons. I can't remember how he was when we were first introduced to him. Do either of you remember? I truly don't remember. I don't remember if we were like
think
afraid of
he-
him or if we were scared
I
of
don't
him.
think we were necessarily afraid of him. I think he wasn't super keen on John at first, but I don't think he's ever been like a character that it's like, watch out for Tormund, he's gonna kill everyone. Like I feel like he's always been out of the wildlings one of the like cooler ones.
It's an interesting character because he's quite different in the show from in the books, with the biggest difference is that book Tormund has no sense of humor at all, at least not up to this point. He's always very angry and takes a very negative view of life, and he's like totally not really trusting.
So basically,
Well,
the
I shouldn't say
Hound.
not very trusting. He develops a very conditional trust, I guess, for John. But
Yeah.
there's like no comedy at all, and it was a fascinating change for the show's character.
I just think we already have
and
that
I
with
think
the
he did a
Hound,
great
you know?
job.
I don't think we need another, like, crotchety, like, untrusting, like, bleak character.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You just have to remember that like there's hundreds and hundreds of characters in the books, and so there's a little bit more room for a couple of negative Nancys. But yeah, I love the show character Tormund better than the book character. I'm so glad they took the direction that they did with him. And if he dies, God rest his soul.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like he probably will.
So speaking of the Hound, I thought that his scene was pretty well done. It was like a good recap of him, I guess. Like I feel like his character got more of a recap that episode than other characters. You know, when Arya went and sat down with him and they had their little conversations, and you know, he basically admitted that he was a changed person, sort of thing. How do you feel about him surviving next episode?
I think he has to survive because the mountain is still alive, and I just feel like his arc is not complete until
Are you
he
waiting
has
for
some sort of
Clegane Bowl?
confrontation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it could go either way with him. I do feel like he's done a lot of redemption. But I guess he could be the one to kill the mountain. I don't know.
I think that's the only thing missing from him is, and that did they kind of hype that up in that episode where they were down in King's Landing? Like, did either of them like speak or make eyes at each other, or is that something that fans and have just sort of hyped up at all?
I know there's this whole theory about this thing called Clegane Bowl where they like
Yeah.
kill each other or something. I don't really know too much about it, but I also think that the mountain is like literally just a zombie character. So I don't know if he like has any consciousness of his former life. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to be like a situation where it would do anything for him. Because it's like I think the mountain as a character is essentially dead.
Oh yeah, he's much
So
more of this new iteration.
so it's like for me, I don't know if it would necessarily. I mean, like I don't know if it would give him any kind of relief because he kind of is already dead.
That's true. That's true. We'll see. I just think, I don't know. When I thought of story arcs wrapping up, that was one I had thought about. And I just considered, well, maybe he has to fight the mountain again. Whether he actually kills him or not, I don't know. But it seems there's probably a very high chance he could die next week too. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because I saw like the preview or whatever. I'm trying to remember
I
who was like
skipped
in
it.
Okay, I won't. I mean, I won't go into it. I'm just trying to remember who was like in the front lines because I feel like anyone who's in the front lines is done.
Yeah.
Well, we know Jon and Dany were giving commands. I think Tyrion was up there too.
Yeah. So I mean, speaking of Tyrion, I guess this just kind of cuts into like a little theory that we have that isn't gonna. I don't know. It's not one of my crazy crackpot theories, I think, but
Mm-hmm.
I think because Daenerys was like, no, you need to go and like go to the crypt where like everyone else like I need your brain. So where are we on the theory that the Night King is gonna raise all the dead Starks?
I don't know where we are, but I would absolutely love that to happen. Like, that's
I could
great.
see that happening. I think
I wanna
that could even
see-
just be fan service, like seeing Ned Stark again, even if he's like all decayed and gross.
Yeah, but that's great fan service. Let Jon
Yeah.
cut off Ned. Let Arya cut off Ned's head. Fuck yeah, let's do that.
Well, Ned has no head.
What do they do with the head?
Oh,
He
jeez,
doesn't. They don't like
Alexa.
stick it back in there.
They just like reattach his head.
Uh,
I don't know, but
yeah, I'm all about that. I would love to see the Starks fight the Starks. Like that would make me incredibly happy.
I hadn't even thought of that, and I don't. For all the theories I've seen over the years, that's not one of them. But that's fascinating.
I've seen a bunch of articles about it and stuff, and I've seen people like, and I think it makes sense. Like he has that ability, and
Right.
they're all going to the crypt, and it's like, is that a good idea? Like,
Yeah.
have we forgotten what the Night King can do? You really want to send all the like weaker people where he could raise them, like the dead? Have we forgotten?
Right.
So, is there anything else we want to get to within this
I mean,
particular episode,
I
or do we
just
want to
think
move on to
we
death
could-
predictions?
We can, I mean, just briefly talk about, because I think this is a big moment, like John, Aegon, whatever, avoiding Daenerys all episode, and then
Yeah.
being like, oh, like BT dubs, I'm your nephew. And I don't know, the whole Daenerys being like, but like, who told you that? Because, like, I don't buy it. was kind of interesting.
Right, but at this point, Daenerys doesn't give a shit who Brienne is. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, his
But it's
word
like,
and
I just
Sam's
think-
word mean nothing to her. Like,
I think it's interesting though because like when has Jon ever expressed like I know he didn't want to bend the knee to her at first, but like he hasn't expressed at any point any desire to be the king of the Seven Kingdoms. And I think it's really interesting because everyone keeps trying to force him into these leadership roles, and he's like, "Yo, can we just kill the White Walkers? Like, I don't give a shit."
right. I don't know. I feel like Daenerys' response to that was, like, kind of further proof that, like, the power is all kind of getting to her head a bit. Like, you know, she has a much different reaction than if the Daenerys in season, like, 3 learned about this. You know what I mean? Like, it's much more an upset, angry reaction.
Yeah. Which, like, honestly, we didn't get to see the full reaction because they got a little interrupted by the
Right.
White Walkers arriving. So it was
Right.
kind of like before she got to say anything, after like being like, "Okay, I guess I buy it. Like, I guess you'd be the heir." It just kind of was
So-
like, cut.
Is there a scenario where we think they get split up during this battle, but they both survive? But then Daenerys kind of like thinks that Jon's out to get her?
I don't know if it's gonna go that way. I do think. I mean, now that we're near the end, we can start going into our death predictions. I don't think either of them is gonna die. So.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, I think
either.
it's just
I
like
hope
kind of
I'm
like
wrong.
a conversation we table for later
Right.
when we're not all dying.
I don't know. Like, I would be totally fine if Daenerys either or kind of got knocked off this episode. If one of them has to get knocked off, I think it has to be Daenerys because
Yeah, I don't think Jon can get knocked off. I
right.
still very much think he was that whole prince who was promised them.
Right,
was
and if
gonna
she
save
gets
everyone.
knocked off, he can still ride the dragons and whatnot. So it's not
Yeah.
it's not like their biggest weapon is
Yeah.
gone. But I'm with you. I don't think we're losing either of them. Out of the people who are drinking wine, like we said, I think maybe only Tyrion and Jaime survive that. I think we definitely lose either Grey Worm or
Oh,
Miss.
I think Grey Worm's done.
I don't know.
like-
I think it could be her.
I mean, I guess if she's in the crypt and it does happen that way, we could lose her. But I think the whole him being like, "I'm gonna take you away and we're gonna have like this beautiful life," it's like, no, you're not. Like, what world are you living in?
Do you
Right.
not know what show you're
Like-
in?
Yeah.
Oh,
Are
yeah.
you not self-aware that you're on Game of Thrones, you dummy?
Yeah, one of them 100% is toast.
Yeah.
If not
I mean,
both of them.
anyone who had any kind of romantic moment, I'm chopping one of them off.
Yeah.
So, like with that, I'm thinking Gendry's out.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. Yeah,
His storyline's
Andy,
pretty
you've
wrapped
been
up.
predicting Gendry's death for quite a while now.
I know. Listen,
But
I
it's just
have
his
to be
character
right at some
this
point.
point has kind of just been pretty useless. Like really, his whole character now is just kind of like, okay, well, it's this dude that
What's what-
Arya likes,
when-
and now it's like, and now she had sex with him, and
I
it's
said
done.
it last season when he came back. He was a body for people to like again, so they could kill him. Like, he really hasn't provided.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like
substance in
he
any
really
capacity.
has any kind of, and he doesn't want to be king, so it's not like he's like, okay, well, I'm the only Baratheon left.
Right,
Like,
but-
he doesn't care about that at all.
Even him being like even his like quote unquote role of him being the master blacksmith, like
But he's
we
done
could have
it
just
because they've made the
ignored that.
weapons.
Yeah, but we could have even ignored it. Like they could just been like our blacksmiths are down there making all our stuff. Like his
I mean,
character
I
has
think
provided
the reason they
nothing.
haven't killed him yet is for fan service, and we got it, and
Right.
I think he's done.
No, I 100%. I 100%
Like a lot of
agree.
people were posting like the meme of like Robert and Ned being like, "I have a son, you have a daughter, we must join our houses," and it's like, okay, done.
Right.
Check.
I'm with you. I also think Theon is donezo for sure.
Me too. I don't think he's making it. He is protecting the bait.
But I mean, it's also fine. Like Theon's had a decent arc.
Yeah, no, I think Theon's had a decent run. I think him dying for
Either
Bran
either-
protecting Winterfell would be the ultimate redemption for his character. Like, boom, like, you destroy the Starks, you fix the Starks, you're done.
Right. No,
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you. I also think that Jorah's toast as well.
Yeah, I could do that.
Oh, I'm gonna hate that one. I
but
love that guy.
I do see that happening. Because, like, what really, like, he's not her hand. Like,
And he
what
got
else
his
is
father's.
his purpose?
He got his father's sword.
Yeah,
from
he got his
Sam.
dad's sword. He's like, hey, Lil Cuz, I don't want you fighting. And she's like, bitch, I'm going to do what I want.
Right.
Yep, that's how it was spoken.
Those
That's
are the exact
Westerosi.
words. I have a copy of the script right in front of me. Who else do we think is gone?
You're gonna lose.
Tormund.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You're gonna lose. I hope you don't lose the Hound. Can Beric die now?
Yeah, and Thoros of Myr can't bring him back, so Beric.
Well, he's
could
died
totally
19
be...
times.
Yeah, but Thoros of
just kept
Myr
bringing
always
him
brought him back, and Thoros is dead. So
Right.
Beric, it can die now.
Melisandre shows up and brings him back for 20th time.
Do we
Ugh,
lose?
that'd be so annoying.
Do we lose Davos or what's
I
his
think
name?
we could also lose Davos, and I say this just because he had that kind of like moment with the little girl who, I don't know if she had grayscale or her face was burnt, but like totally gave me hella Shireen vibes, and it was just kind of like wrapping that up too, kind of
Right.
giving him like this kind of redemption with, not that he needed redemption, but kind of just like, you know, a sweet little moment with him where it's like, sweet moment, you gone.
Right. So, Joe, you might know the answer to this. What happens if Bran dies at this point?
That's a great question.
So, like,
I was actually wondering the same thing. Like, what happens if we're assuming Theon dies, then we're also assuming that the Night King probably gets to Bran.
I don't
Right.
think he's
what
gonna kill
actually
him
happens
though.
there?
I don't think he's.
Well,
I don't know. I think
so-
it's like I think Theon will die protecting him, but they'll find a way to get him out.
My only thought was that Tyrion sat down with them and I'm assuming they had a big long conversation. It just cut away. So if you lose Bran, could Tyrion redeem himself by being the person who knows what kind of needs to happen over the last 3 episodes? You know what I mean? Like, if
I just
can
don't
you
think they're
lose
gonna
Bran and
I
then
don't think so.
have
It's a very interesting question, and I've wondered the same thing too. But I agree with Alexa. I just don't see Bran dying.
No, I
Like
don't
it's,
either.
it's one of those I can't picture it. I
Right.
don't
I
know
just-
what happens
yeah.
to him.
I didn't
I just-
know.
I feel like he has to live.
I
I
thought
just feel like his storyline isn't finished.
right. I thought if
either.
like they kind of hyped him up as being like the all-knowing thing over the last couple episodes. If you lose him, that might be a shock that like people aren't expecting, because like everybody in the world is expecting like half these characters to die. But I bet you Bran is not on anybody's list.
I just don't. I
Right.
think
I mean,
his
I'm
storyline
with you.
isn't finished.
I don't
and,
like, think so, but
I don't think he's tapped into the full potential of his powers, and I
Right.
think he's going to be very instrumental in taking down the Night King.
right.
So-
So I have a friend who I pitched my theory to, who he was whining about it because he thought it was a dumb theory, but he's dumb for thinking the theory's dumb. What's going to
What is the
happen
theory?
at some point? I think we might have talked about this last episode. What's going to happen next episode? I believe this is at some point, you know, the Night King's going to chop off Theon's head or whatever. It's going to be him and Bran in the courtyard, and then he's going to start talking to Bran.
I
Because-
don't see this character talking.
But that's like a twist. That's something they can do
I
that
guess.
they haven't done before.
It might be. I
So,
feel like if there is some kind of conversation, it's gonna be like telepathic.
I mean,
it
it could just be that as well. But like, did you ever see the new Planet of the Apes with James Franco? It came out like 10 years ago.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen the others.
So like, at the end of that movie, you knew
when
that.
Caesar speaks.
Yeah, like that moment was like that was a major moment in that film, and I feel like we've seen the Night King for, you know, what is it, 8 seasons now, and he just has that really stoic look. And if at some point in that episode you hear him say something, you know, like he's not coming there to
I don't
try
want
and
him
like
to talk unless he speaks like, "Hey, Brian, what's up?"
like he's not coming there to like bargain or anything. Like I could see him going down there to be like, you know, I've won, you know, basically
Yeah.
having like a mic drop moment to Bran, and then
He already
either-
had his mic drop moment when he lifted everyone back, like, did that arm thing, and everyone came back to life.
yeah, but what if he lifted everybody up and then he was like, also, fuck you guys, like that would have made that moment. I don't know. It would be very interesting to me if, and like I don't want him to sit there and like have a monologue, but if he goes out there and he says
Yeah,
like
like a whole soliloquy.
yeah, if he says like 1 or 2 things and then Bran says 1 or 2 things back and then Jon runs in and then they have a fight and then the remaining people escape. Great, good, let's do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
that would have a
legitimately
massive
think
impact.
the only way it would. I feel like if I like, I don't know. I'm very just stuck on. He just like can't speak or something for some reason. I feel like if there was a conversation, it would be telepathic and kind of being like, yo, we have this connection that's like hella deep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine.
And maybe we'd understand what the connection's about. Because
Right.
really at this point we know very, very little, and just kind of being like, yeah, if you erase me, you erase humanity. And it's like, but like, why though?
That's kind of my point. Like, I definitely don't mean like he doesn't necessarily have to talk out of his mouth. There's him communicate.
Yeah.
Like, he can telepathically communicate, and that would be a way for them to get across a little bit more of his lore. Like, even just
I
a
hope
little
we
bit.
get some. That
Right.
would be cool.
But, like,
I don't necessarily know that it's going to happen, but I think
That
that
to
would be
me
cool.
is more interesting than in season 7 or season 5 or episode 5 of this season having Sam show up and be like, oh, I read in this book that XYZ can happen. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'd rather have that information a different way, because Sam's already done that like 5 times at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be kind of lame. I don't know. I mean, is Sam going to the crypts though?
I don't know. He was with
Like,
Gilly.
we could lose Sam.
I think he'll go there, but then he'll leave.
He,
Go
Yeah, I
fight
could see him
somewhere
escaping
else.
with like Gilly.
yeah, he could be the one that
Always
like
get out.
instigates the escape movement. You know what I mean? Like, he could be the one that gets everybody out, and like he could be the quote unquote savior of all those people in the crypt because he was smart enough to
Yeah,
help them escape or whatever. That would be a very Sam thing to do.
yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah, I think as far as the Night King, I think we could learn so much, even from 1 or 2 lines from him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But because we know so little, it still gives the show an opportunity to do or to go multiple directions with that character.
Right.
Whether we still have time for flashbacks
I just hope we get
or
an understanding of his motivation other than just like, I want to destroy people because that's what I was meant to do.
that would
like
just
that
be
would
so
just be
lame.
so anticlimactic and just so
Yeah, but
unmotivated.
if there is a way
It's-
for you to get his motivation, what is the most like rewarding way to get that information?
No, I agree with you 100%. I think that's the best way it would happen. I hope we get that. I'm like getting nervous that we're like coming closer and closer to the end and we really have no understanding of their motivations. We got like a little tidbit this last episode, but I mean, it was in like Robo Brand talk, which is like super cryptic.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know. I hope we get an understanding of his motivations. I hope that what you're saying comes true. I don't necessarily know that it will.
Right. So, my other question is, in order to be turned in to like one of the White Walkers, like the head, how do those people come to be? Like, can we have one of our people?
Things, because I have a hella crackpot theory, and I don't necessarily think it's gonna happen or anything, but I just could see it happening, where one of the Stark sisters gets turned into a White Walker, like not a white, like a White Walker.
Right. That's what I'm asking. Like, can that happen to, like, could they hold Sansa down and like, you know?
Like I see her being turned into like a White Walker queen. I can picture it so well.
Right. And then have something happen where Jon has to like
Yeah, I don't.
stab her down or something.
Because like, so I was talking about this with my dad, and he was under the impression that you could only be turned into a White Walker if you were a baby. But I was thinking maybe the reason that he was taking babies is because if they're baby White Walkers, then that's all they ever know. And so maybe if a person who is a full-grown adult is a White Walker, they're not as easily manipulated by the Night King.
Right.
So I wonder if that would be an interesting... I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen at all. I think it's totally one of my crazy crackpot theories, but I could see, like, Sansa
No.
specifically getting turned into, like, a White Walker.
Right.
And I don't know if that necessarily means that she's going to be completely swayed by his side or not. But I wonder if that's why they take babies, or if you have to be a baby and you can't just turn, like, a human adult.
Right. Anything that we can do to have like more of these characters that we've grown to become attached to, like, have to fight each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love when they put, like, when Brienne fought the Hound a couple seasons ago, that was like a great scene because I cared about both those characters.
Yeah,
and
you
I
want
was
either of them to die.
yeah, like I was very torn because I was like, I don't want anything to happen to either of these two, and I know something's gonna happen to one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Any situation where we can get everybody kind of off of one side and like jumble up the sides a bit, like I'm all for.
Yeah.
Like have Jaime save Brienne but get turned into a White Walker, and then have Brienne have to take down Jaime, sort of thing. Like,
Yeah. I don't want it to be one of those things where they just get turned into like mindless white stuff. Like,
No.
I want them to be like full blown White Walker, and
Right.
I just don't
Yeah,
know if that's something that's possible in this universe.
that's what I mean. I'm talking more of that than, you know, like rezzing the dead up and having them just sort of lumber around.
Yeah. No, I want to see that happen. I just don't like, since we have such a little understanding of the White Walker lore at this point. Like, is that even possible?
Right.
Is there a reason he chose babies?
For such a decent enemy, if you really think about it, you know, literal, like, they're just mean-looking bad guys.
Yeah, like, because my dad was like, well, maybe they don't have to be babies because the dragon's a White Walker, but is the dragon a White Walker or is the dragon a white?
Yeah.
Like,
Who knows?
yeah, like, I don't know. But I guess we'll see next episode. Like, because I'm sure if it's possible, it's gonna happen.
Right. I'm all for next episode. I'm ready to see 80% of the cast not be in the rest of them.
And I think next episode is the longest episode we're getting.
Is it? Are you sure?
I read it was 90 minutes.
I don't think
the
so.
longest we're getting.
Season.
I'm pretty sure
All
it's the
I know
longest
is the
episode.
director for next week was
You are
Miguel
correct.
Sapochnik.
It's
Who is it?
It's the longest by 4 minutes.
Yeah.
I read.
So who is the director, Joe? I'm sorry.
His name's Miguel Sapochnik, the man who is responsible for most of the very best battle episodes in this series.
Amazing.
Basically,
Yeah.
anytime his name is on an episode,
You know it's a good battle.
It's an
It
hour and
delivers. Like, it's not
22
just the
minutes.
battles either. Like, it's the drama, it's the
Yeah.
unexpected twists and turns. So, like, we can expect something great to happen.
Yeah,
Something
I mean, they
something
better not
horrible,
let us
but
down
great.
with this episode. This is like a hyped up battle.
I saw an article that said they drew a lot of inspirations from the actual Helm's Deep battle.
Yeah,
and
I've
I believe
heard
that
too.
I believe that more seeing the prep scene of the last episode. So I'm all about it. I'm ready to see some characters die. Let's do it.
We're in the end game now, guys.
So I have one last quick comment before we end. And I think these last 2 episodes have been really strong episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But they feel uncomfortable with the amount of remaining time we have, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
And
Like,
if you think about it, it makes sense that this all can't happen the season before, but at the same time, it's like we're going into.
But there are certain things that have felt rushed. Like, I don't really understand. Like, I know we had the whole like stuff last season, and it was like kind of leading up to it. But like, at what moment did Jon and Daenerys like fall madly in love with each other?
That was very rushed. I'm
like, when like, I know that you guys had your like little back and forth, and then you guys had sex, but it's like, why are you guys obsessed with each other? Like, when did this happen?
Right.
So I get it.
Yeah, I just thought the pacing of these last 2 episodes, within the episodes themselves, felt okay, but within the scope of the whole season, considering it's the last season, feels weird to me. Like, I'm super stoked that the next episode is going to be a giant battle season, but all we're going to know with 3 episodes left is who survives and, like, what the state of the war is. You know what I mean?
And where are they? Like, I have a feeling a lot of them are going to have to retreat. Where are they going?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, I
how
mean,
do
they
we
have to go south.
finalize.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, are they going to go all the way down to King's Landing? Are they going to go to the Iron Islands? Like, how is this going to...
Yeah,
don't know.
I mean, I think they have to go to King's Landing. You can't end that show with, like, your
Well, I
last shot
think
of King's
eventually
Landing.
they will. But we have to keep in mind, King's Landing is really far south.
Yeah, but what do you mean eventually? There's still only, like, 3 episodes left.
I
That's
could
kind
see
of
that
my
being
we
like
know
the
the
last
characters can
episode,
teleport.
though.
Right. I don't know. I definitely think these last 2 episodes, and I'm assuming this next one, have been very strong. But just the pacing against the 6-episode season as a whole, knowing that it's your last one. And, like, we checked off a lot of boxes this last episode.
Yeah, I mean, and if we think about it, I legitimately think that, like, more than half of the people in Winterfell are gonna die.
Yeah, I could
So
see,
that's
like,
gonna take
4 or
out
5.
a lot of storyline
Right
there.
Right.
So, like, I get what you're saying, But I also think it's just like we're coming to the end of the show and things need to get finalized, and there are still a lot of characters left, and we can't have that many at the
Right.
end.
I could totally
So-
see the beginning or the very end of this last episode or the next episode. I could see us going, what the fuck are we going to do for 3 more episodes? Everybody's dead. Like I could see so much stuff happening this last episode.
Maybe we get a full backstory.
Right. Like I could see so much stuff happening this episode that the last 3 episodes you're like, what are we even going to fill it with, sort of thing. Whereas right now it's like, how are we going to finish everything in 4 episodes?
Yeah,
And
I don't
that's
know.
where
I'm
if you
not
kill a bunch of people
worried.
off, that's
Yeah.
where you can insert backstory, potentially,
Mhm.
about the Night King and the White Walkers.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
I really do believe there is time, or there will be time for that.
Right.
Well, especially considering because the first 2 episodes were the normal 1 hour. From here on out, it's like an hour 20 minutes each.
Yep.
So we got plenty of time left.
Right.
Okay, so real quick. Season 8, Episode 2, how would you rate it out of 10?
I think it was like a solid 9.
Yeah.
Like it was a great episode.
I'm with you. I give it a 9. Also, I think it does a good job. Like it does a good job prepping you for the next episode, both getting you excited and then getting
And
you
it's
ready
gonna
to
crush
lose
all our
people.
hopes and
Like,
dreams.
Yeah, but that I'm good with that. Like I'm
It's
Yeah.
going to make
I'm-
Andy's hopes and dreams.
yeah, like I'm
No,
happy
but I
when
mean,
that stuff
it's
happens.
like, you know, we had all these beautiful moments, and wait, like if you think there's a happy ending, like you're not paying attention.
Right.
So
Right.
All right, we good?
I'm
Yeah.
good.
Andy's thumbs are up, I'm
They're up.
assuming.
bye guys. We're gonna say bye this time, unlike last time.
I hope you will. I will give an outro, and then you guys can say adios.
Okay.
This has been the ACFC crew yakking it up about Season 8, Episode 2, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. We hope you enjoyed it. And get ready for a lot of blood and tears next week. Maybe go buy a full box of tissues while you're at it.
Yeah.
And we will be back next week to discuss Episode 3. Goodbye.
Bye.
Yes, goodbye.